can't do this any longer.
I just am not okay with people trying to think everything is something out against them in the world.
I think there's a lot of shaming going on for people like you now. You know, it's hard to be like you in our culture, and there's a lot of judgment.
Beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, we just hate you people.
That is true. And you know
What
what?
do you mean, you people?
I don't think you're allowed to say that.
You beautiful people.
Follow us on faithandwhatever.com. You can connect with us there and find out everything that's going on. If you want to hit us up individually on Twitter and tell me why I am like a fatist or an elitist for fat people. I don't know. How would
You're an elite fat person?
Or how would you say that? Okay, whatever. I just don't like. Well, okay. Moving on. I'm at Josh_Carmen. That's at James YUILE. Garrett is at TStudentLife. He just actually posted a new video on his own personal YouTube page about whether or not swearing is really bad. And it's great. He totally advocates swearing and thinks it's okay. I'm just kidding. I haven't watched it yet, and I don't think I don't think that's the conclusion. No, I don't think that's the conclusion he'll reach. But you should go check it out for yourself and spam him. So, in the news, I am excited about where all this is going, and I just want to get this underway. We are coming down to the end of the Republican and the Democratic primaries, and I think it's maybe a little bit less than neck and neck on the Republican side at this point. It looks like Trump is going to win.
A little bit less. Everyone else dropped out.
I think Cruz is pretty much out.
Yeah, no, everybody's out. I'm totally kidding. But the Democratic side is, well, so it's interesting. I was watching the Young Turks yesterday, and I'm just balancing my, I take in a lot of garbage from
Fair
Fox
enough.
News. I got to take in a lot of garbage from the Young Turks also. And so they were talking about how it's very improbable. Not probable. That's the one. Improbable for Bernie to win now, right? He would have to win 60%. I'm just still so angry about the last segment. He would have to win 66% of the remaining
And if he did,
delegates.
it'd be the mark of the devil.
And the extra 6 in there. It was like, wait a second. And so it looks like Hillary is going to at least get the nomination going into the primary, or maybe win, right, that side of it. But I wanted to talk about the Bernie Sanders response after recently winning West Virginia. The Sanders side came out and said, and this article is from WashingtonTimes.com, they talked about how it would be a disaster for the Democratic Party if they nominated Hillary Clinton as their presidential nominee. We all know that there is some how would you say, scrutiny that Hillary Clinton is currently under, right? And she's being investigated for everything by the FBI right now, and this could kind of come to a head in the next 6 weeks. And so what's interesting here is if, she is indicted on charges or something like that.
She won't be.
Yeah, but I mean, if something like that happens, right, the very reason the superdelegates were created were for an instance like this, and they could potentially change their minds, and we could all feel the burn. We need a GIF in there somewhere. Feel the burn, and seeing about getting something like that going. If she were to lose, then Sanders takes the Democratic nomination, and he goes against Trump, and he has fared way better in the polls than Trump has. So I just wanted to get some thoughts as to why you think, or who you think would be a better representation from the Democratic side. Or what you kind of just think about the whole thing as it's kind of coming seemingly to a close here, and the potential or likely, more than likely results statistically of a Trump versus Clinton nominee for the general primary elections, and just your thoughts on the whole thing.
So who's better? Are you saying Hillary or Bernie? Is that what we're asking here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who would be better to represent the Dems?
Well,
Dems, dough.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're asking
Nice.
here. It changes the answer. Who represents democratic ideals better? I mean, I'm kind of guessing it's probably Hillary who represents those ideals better. Who's a better nominee for this cycle of presidential campaign? The argument is made by many that it's Bernie Sanders. I think what Bernie has on his side is certainly not a perfect history, which Chris could definitely chime in and give
Never
some-
looks good when you take money from Hillary's super PAC in the Senate.
But but he does have.
Thank you, Chris.
He does have a long history of usually, overwhelmingly, taking the side of people over bureaucracy. Not all the time. There's always skeletons in the closet.
Sure.
But certainly
He's
compared.
pretty old, so he's got a pretty deep
But,
closet.
but compared to his peers, I would say that he's got probably a better history when it comes to fighting for like civil liberties and such things. Does that make him the best president between Hillary and Clinton and Hillary and Clinton between Hillary and Bernie? I don't know if I know enough in this regard because being a president involves many roles.
The 7 things we talked about,
we-
which have been really helpful for me in my
Yeah.
own political discourse, is trying
Right.
to figure out who best fits those 7 things. Anyway, I thought that was a very enlightening
Because-
segment we did.
Yeah, because despite
Am I loud enough, Chris? Can you hear me in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
despite what one may think about a candidate's strengths or weaknesses, there's a certain climate the president needs to work in today. And can the person you're trying to elect work in the entire climate, including what's going on internationally with the economy, what's going internationally with the wars and the battles we're involved in, what's going on internationally, excuse me, not internationally, but what's going on with our own national economy and also sort of just what's happening in our social sphere as
Yeah.
far as treatment of people and rights and not just protecting people who need to be protected, but protecting them without damaging the rights of others.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of there's been a number of social issues of the last 10 years where things have swung really far one side where it's never been before, such as marriage and homosexuality. And in swinging that way, there's been some people getting harmed along the way, right? Whether, I'm not trying to tell you what to think about marriage and homosexuality. I'm agnostic to it. If 2 men or 2 women want to be married, it doesn't really affect me too much. It doesn't bother me. But what does bother me is some of the...
How dare you?
What does bother me, though, is that in giving... there is a vocal minority from the LGBTQ community, and I'm saying minority here, not the whole community, that is trying to take some of their newly found rights to a point of harm for those who aren't comfortable, like making it so if somebody doesn't want to marry a couple, that now they're doing something illegal. And It's like, well, I don't see that either. It seems like you just need to find a different pastor or a different
Totally agree.
or a different outlet for your wedding dress or wedding clothes or whatever. There's plenty of options in America. If one option isn't comfortable with what you're doing, get burned for about 10 seconds and then move on.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Sounds pretty privileged of you.
yeah, pretty privileged.
Cis, white, hetero, male.
Cyst? Do I have am I a cyst?
No, it's CYST.
CYST.
Yeah, it's another normative type name for you people.
Just a cyst on society.
Yeah.
I'm just a boil.
That's Robbie's term. I don't quite know what it means.
Oh, really? It's Robbie's term.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
He makes fun of Mosh.
the question is, can your presidential candidate engage the full job?
With full
And
spectrum. That's the word I was
and
looking
when it's coming down to the 2 Democrat candidates, I don't know if Hillary knows much about what's happening on the ground personally.
All right, so 4 minutes of solid explanation. What's your choice? Gun to your head, who you picking?
Between the 2,
Yeah, between the 2 only.
I'd probably pick Bernie Sanders, but it's not a heartfelt decision.
Okay, no, that's okay. I'm not looking for a hard. I'm just looking for the polemics. Chris,
Between those 2, Chris.
Gun to my head.
I'll take the bullet.
And Bernie would probably try and tax me for it.
Jeez. So you got to pick somebody. Who would be
I would
better?
pick Bernie because I think he would be able to do less in the next 4 years. I think Hillary.
Playing the long con,
Yeah.
Mr. Carmen.
Hillary knows how to wheel and deal and play the DC game, and I think she would be able to get more done, which would be bad. And so I would pick Bernie because I think he would give a whole bunch of speeches and kind of keep trying to sell his BS that a lot of people are buying. But other than that, I don't think he would actually do anything.
There is a fair point there that a lot of presidential candidates make a lot of promises about what they will do, but what the voter, need to realize is it's not always within their job rights to be able to do those things. Like Bernie can present. Let's say you agree with Bernie Sanders' tax propositions,
But like,
just because he's president doesn't mean that comes true.
how about a better example? He said he's going to overturn Citizens United.
Okay.
What's
President,
that? What's that?
The Citizens United Supreme Court ruling. That
What
has
is
to
that?
do with funding and politics and all that.
Which he can't do if it's a Supreme Court ruling, right?
Exactly. The president cannot do it.
Right.
You would
It's-
need a constitutional amendment. And so, I mean, he could.
which is impossible for
he could
those of you
propose that.
who don't know that.
Yeah, but you need 2/3 of the states to ratify a constitutional amendment.
Right.
And
And
we've
good
still
luck-
got 2/3 classic racists here. In
Well, good luck getting
Good old
66%
US
of
of A.
anyone in America to agree on anything.
Right.
So,
I don't see how anybody in their right mind could ever vote for Hillary at all. I'm just going to be definitive as I can be on that.
What do you not like about her?
I just cannot stand, and maybe this is the fact that we're all just three white guys talking about voting for another white guy over a woman. It could be that.
You're not feeling the hill?
No.
I
Gosh,
can understand why people would pick her over Trump.
And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, I don't know about that, but here are. I mean, I would again.
Is that the new diss? If it was you versus Trump, I'd pick Trump.
listen to this. This is just a quick cursory glance I've done. The top 22 recent Clinton flip-flops. Trans-Pacific Partnership, 2012 supported it, now opposes it. U.S.-Korea Free Trade Agreement supported it, now opposes.
Dude, like, who even cares about her flip flops? Look at the actual scandals she's been involved in.
And well, here's my issue. It's the wheeling and or dealing that has mired this political system into just the absolute garbage that we sit in now. And so I wanted to pick this and do it from this angle, though, to where we kind of had to pigeonhole ourselves, because none of us are probably going to vote Democratic in the next election. I'll probably go Libertarian. Chris will go Libertarian. You won't vote. And
If I vote.
yeah, and Garrett will probably write in Jesus, I'm guessing. But the idea of trying to force ourselves to pick and to pick from something out of the Democratic side is an interesting, I think, exercise, albeit in futility, a good one nonetheless, for the sake of the segment. And I just cannot wrap my head around somebody who now. On her stance on homosexuality in particular, 2003, she said no. 2011, 12, 13, 14, she's been affirming it. And maybe that's just growing, and I'll give the benefit of the doubt
A lot of
to
people
that.
did grow.
Yeah, and I'll give the benefit of the doubt to her on that. I don't think that's actually true, but for the sake of just fairness, I guess, I think that's valuable to do because you can grow in those things. But dear goodness, there is so, like, either these 22
How about just
flipping... Yeah, go ahead.
the flat out lies?
Yeah, okay.
Like
So,
the sniper fire.
yeah. So I read, it was that wasn't in Benghazi. Where was that?
That was in, guy was in the Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it was
back in the 90s.
Belgrave? I don't know, something.
Like in the Balkans?
Yeah.
Or,
Did you hear about
where is
this?
she? Croatia?
Yeah, and
I don't
so
know, Kosovo, maybe?
No, I'm gonna Google this real quick. We have to.
Yeah, we're just throwing out cities,
Turns out to be
places
Florida.
and countries.
And so essentially what happens, she goes, I remember landing and being under sniper fire, and we weren't able to have this like meet and greet on the tarmac that we were supposed to do. And then they had
Overstated the
video,
case.
No, they had video evidence where she walked off the plane and stood and took pictures with this group of women, shaking hands, shaking babies, shaking hands, signing books, hanging out like the whole night. And she's just, I think it was not Benghazi.
You just gave me a
it
great
was
mental
Bosnia.
image.
Bosnia, that's right.
Yeah.
And so this is like Bosnia '93 or something like that. She's like, she totally Brian Williams'd it from the CNN reporter, right, who said that they had sniper fire in their helicopter or something like that. And it's just, she's terrible. She's just awful. And I can't, in good conscience as a human being, promulgate the idea of voting for somebody like this that is just this clearly a liar. And that's not to say that she's different or worse than anybody else, because people were all probably liars, but now we just have better forms of social media to keep track of said lies. And so if it came down to the two of them, I totally got to give it to my man, The Burn. I love the stuff that he did with Killer Mike in the barbershop. I thought that was pretty cool. I appreciate that, he's down with my cause, whatever my social justice warrior cause is. But I can't vote. Like the lady is just, I don't know.
But did you see what she had?
She's
You know,
a
everyone was
cat.
bashing Donald Trump for his taco bowl he ate the other day. Remember that? Which was I
And
was,
rightfully
it was
so.
funny.
He's so
it was
awful.
funny. But
Did
she
you see
had
that? He ate a taco. He was eating out of a taco shell. He said, "The best whatevers are made in Trump Towers. I love Hispanics."
No.
That was his Cinco de Mayo post.
she had a mariachi band. So I mean, you want to talk about like pandering and cultural appropriation?
Just awful. So, anyway, that was a fun exercise in futility. Moving forward and right along here, President Obama, lest we forget the man still occupying the White House.
Yeah, like he'd let you.
And jeez, he's planning to visit Hiroshima and on Japan during
he
his
is?
Vietnam trip. And yeah, here's what's interesting about this.
Interesting.
This article comes from BBC.com. Barack Obama is set to visit Hiroshima this month, and I think this is cool. The first serving U.S. president to travel to the Japanese city since it was hit by the U.S. nuclear bomb in 1945. This is going to be a part of the trip in the last week and a half for May. This was part of, this was obviously one of the two cities that was bombed on August 6th, 1945, that killed 140,000 people.
They were bombed on separate days.
And, Hiroshima was bombed on 6 August. And the White House said there would be no apology for the bombings.
Do you think there should be?
I don't know. I think we can look back and say, in hindsight, hey, I'm sorry all those people died. I mean, I think, like, the ethical side of me says, yeah, because they were innocent people, or, whatever.
Have you ever thought?
What it would be like if it didn't?
No.
Oh.
No, I was gonna say, have you ever thought to yourself that the Japanese ought to apologize for Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I can see why you would apologize for that, too.
No, I'm not saying why you would. Have you ever thought
They should?
that they should?
Oh, no, I don't think...
Has it ever felt like a requirement?
No,
to you?
I don't think either side should.
I'm not talking about, hey, is it okay to? I'm saying, is there an imperative?
No, I don't think so.
I don't feel an imperative.
Yeah, no, I think it's war, and
it's also
awful,
the
terrible
decisions
things.
of people that are long dead now.
Yeah.
That I don't know that. I'm not a big fan of generations that had nothing to do with the thing apologizing for the thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't have a negative feeling for it.
Right,
like I don't spite it or anything like that. But I don't feel any imperative either. I just think that whatever our current situation is now, we should do the best by each other now.
Yeah, I think it's okay for both sides to acknowledge. I mean, I think there's value in both sides acknowledging, like, hey, that was just a really terrible thing that happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, let's make sure it never happens again, right? Let's work
Right.
to...
Haven't we kind of already passed that?
Yeah,
point
I
with
totally...
Japan? I mean,
I totally think we have.
relations between our countries have been really good
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a long time.
No,
Right.
totally think that we have, and that's good. I like... what I do like about this move, on a personal level, is the idea of starting to just kind of touch base in these cities. And I think it's like a small thing, very non-consequential in the scheme of his presidency. I don't think it does that much stuff. I just think I like the idea of touching base on these things just because of the acknowledgement that it gives to just the history of the world. And I think that's important. I liked his trip to Cuba. I liked, those ideas because it's just kind of helping get rid of the taboo around stuff, and he's
Right.
touching ground on things. And I just think it's stuff that needs to be done. And it's a cursory glance in the scheme of history as far as all those things go.
What you're complimenting is don't forget history.
Yeah, and I think those things
Right.
are important for the sake of remembering where we've been as kind of deterrent for where we may go if we're not careful.
Right.
And that kind of
Remember,
thing.
don't start none, won't be none.
The shirts that say back-to-back World War champs. Have you seen that?
It's really the Russians that are the champs there.
And so,
They dropped out of World War One.
Well, I'm talking about World War II, honestly. I mean, the Russians, we always talk about how the Americans swooped in and saved Europe, but really the Russians had the brunt of that war and
yeah, they
did the
2
most.
million casualties and deaths. So I think that's cool. Just a small thing, not too much to say about it. But I did think it was interesting, some of these quick facts. The bomb was nicknamed Little Boy and was thought to have the explosive force of 20,000 tons of TNT.
The other bomb was
Fat
man.
Man, yeah. I was going to say Fat Man Do.
That would have been way cooler.
Colonel Paul Tibbets was a 30-year-old colonel from Illinois. He led the mission to drop the A-bomb. The Enola Gay, the plan on which dropped the A-bomb, was named to tribute Colonel Tibbets' mother. Here's what's last two interesting ones. Final target was decided less than an hour before the bomb was dropped. The good weather conditions over Hiroshima sealed the city's fate. So it was like, yeah, there's no cloud coverage there. Let's just drop it on that place.
What was the name of the first town? I'm trying to remember. Nagasaki. So I've never checked these facts, but I've been told by people who seem like they knew what they were talking about that a big reason for why Christianity has a hard time piercing into Japan and making a real presence there is because it was doing so, and a lot of the Christian presence was in Nagasaki, and when
We nuked our own. Church.
yeah, and exactly
That would not be surprising.
it became sort of this cultural thing to think of something evil killing itself, like eating itself alive. That this religion of the West being killed by the West, and that kind of defending a certain perspective that it's an incorrect faith. And so we sort of screwed ourselves on that one, essentially. Western culture destroying Western faith in the East. Yeah.
That's actually a pretty interesting thought. So on detonation, the temperature at the burst point of the bomb was several million degrees. That's just insane.
If you want a very interesting Japanese perspective of those bombs being dropped and the end of that war, there's an amazing movie called Grave of Fireflies, put out by Studio Ghibli, made by their most famous director, Miyazaki. And it basically follows, it's animated, but it's not doesn't fall into the trappings of Japanese anime. It's a very serious animated film. Won a lot of international awards, in fact, and it follows the story of two Japanese orphans at the end of World War II, and it's the most heartbreaking,
Actually, that's kind of cool.
Sympathetic. It'll bring the most pathos out of you can possibly be produced by a movie, and it's an amazing film. Yeah.
All right, well, moving right along. Breitbart.com. Chris, this is the Republican site, right? The conservative site?
Very conservative site, yeah.
Yeah, so this is an article written by Warner Todd Huston. Houston. Houston. In his commencement speech to the graduating class at Howard University last weekend, Obama excused crime in the African American community as something fostered by, quote, an unfair and unjust, unquote, system. He also said successful people were, quote, just lucky, and hinted that they didn't make their success. It wasn't nothing you did, he insisted. He appeared to state that it appeared that Obama excused crime as a result of an unfair and unjust system, and the president then decried the judicial system and insisted African Americans were being imprisoned unfairly. He said, we can't just lock up a low-level dealer without asking why this boy, barely out of childhood, felt he had no other options. He went on to claim that crime was a result of the system, not the action of criminals. We have cousins and uncles, he said, and brothers and sisters who we remember were just as smart and just as talented as we were, but somehow got ground down by structures that are unfair and unjust. And that means we have to not only question the world as it is and stand up for those African Americans who haven't been so lucky, because yes, you've worked hard, but you've also been lucky. He said that he had a pet peeve of people who had been successful and didn't realize that they've been lucky, that God may have blessed them. It wasn't nothing that you did, so don't have attitude. So what do you make of those?
Well, there's two things in his speech that are tightly woven together that I want to kind of separate before they're addressed, which is what's going on in this country with Black Americans. That's one thing. And another thing is whether you're only lucky because you're successful, right? And those are two things he tied together, but I don't think they're necessarily tied together in topic. And I don't know about the first topic. There's a lot there to disentangle and to discuss, and I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because there's just so much I don't know. But when it comes to if you're successful, it's only because you're lucky. That certainly happened for a few. But to disregard the hard work of many people, including himself possibly, I think is a little silly. And it's one of those things that's easy to say once your career has officially been bow-tied. right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like you've made it to the top office you can, and now you get to ride those waves, and you get to say ridiculous things like this. I wonder if we listened to him while he was running for president the first time, if his rhetoric would match.
Isn't this one of the worst things you could tell? It's a commencement speech, right?
Yeah,
Isn't this one of the dumbest things you could tell young people?
Yeah.
Like, you have no agency in your life. If you're successful, you're lucky, and if you're not, then well, tough luck.
Right.
Like, whatever happens to you, you have no control over that.
Yeah, the reality is, lucky things do happen to people, but they often happen to people who are busting their butt until the break comes. That like you work hard for years until the right person notices you working hard. And so there's this mixture of luck in with a great deal of effort.
It's like Undercover Boss.
Yeah, yeah. Except that show is awful. I know it's awful because my family watches it all the time. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I do think. I would be one that would be inclined to agree with what he talks about the levels of disenfranchisement that face the African American community. I think there is systematized and institutionalized racism.
Well, not to mention politicians telling them they have no agency in their lives.
And so I think all those things play a pretty big role in creating, not just creating, but sustaining and even perpetuating those problems. I'd like to get lucky. That would be cool.
Getting lucky is winning the lottery.
If I could catch a break. There certainly does have to be, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. There certainly does have to be some type of, when you get your break, that is another way of saying you got lucky, right? The right person noticed you at the right talent agency, or you had just this banger of a performance, at some theater show that you did, and the person just happened to be sitting there that night, and it perpetuated your
or
career.
you're working a hands-on job, and you're just working your tail off for a few years until the opening comes up, that for you to move into management in that position. And
this podcast is going to be a great example of that. We are probably somewhere in like the 58th episode of this video being on YouTube, and we'll probably release another 300 more episodes before anybody
anything.
Yeah, before anybody even notices us. I do wonder if no, never mind. I'll save that for later. So it's just kind of a thing that seems to really short circuit the idea of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah,
there to me.
It's funny how that from the president of the United States, the most he's giving a speech that undercuts the entire American dream.
Yeah,
that if you work hard enough,
you can be what you want to be.
And I don't even think that's really quite the American dream, that you can be what you want to be, but that you can find success, that you can find security in working hard. And he's essentially saying that is a 200-year lie. Right.
Yeah, well, what do you expect from a guy who's never done an honest day's work, right?
I don't know about that.
I mean, straight from college to community organizing to politics.
Community organizing is honest
straight
work.
Out of college.
This is why I don't trust people with soft hands.
I'm just going to leave that one there. Winner of the best joke.
I think we need to wrap this up
with that line. Yeah, winner of the best joke, taking Chris's comment and turning it into an awesome pun, will receive a $100 gift card to Toys R Us. So go ahead and follow us on Faith and...
That is absolutely not going to happen.
Way to totally just dispel the dream, guys. Maybe if you get lucky, you'll get a $100 gift card.
Josh is trying to be a politician.
So follow us on faithandwhatever.com. We look forward to connecting with you there.